He turned towards the scaffold and stretched forth his arms. "Hester," he said, "come hither. Come, my little pearl." It was a ghastly look with which he regarded them, but there was something at once tender and strangely triumphant in it. The child, with a bird-like motion which was one of her characteristics, flew to him and clasped her arms about his knees. Hester Prynne, slowly, as if impelled by inevitable fate, and against her strongest will, likewise drew nearer, but paused before she reached him. At this instant old Roger Chillingworth thrust himself through the crowd, or perhaps so dark, disturbed, and evil was his look, he rose up out of some nether region, to snatch back his victim from what he sought to do. Be that as it might, the old man rushed forward and caught the minister by the arm. "Madam, madman, hold! What is your purpose?" whispered he. "Wave back that woman. Cast off this child. All shall be well. Do not blacken your fame and perish in dishonor. I can yet save you. Would you bring infamy on your sacred profession?" "Ha, tempter! Methinks thou art too late," answered the minister, encountering his eye fearfully but firmly. "Thy power is not what it was. With God's help, I shall escape thee now." He again extended his hand to the woman of the scarlet letter. "Hester Prynne," cried he, with a piercing earnestness, "in the name of him so terrible and so merciful, who gives me grace at this last moment to do what, for my own heavy sin and miserable agony, I withheld myself from doing 7 years ago, come hither now and twine thy strength about me. Thy strength, Hester, but let it be guided by the will which God hath granted me. This wretched and wronged old man is opposing it with all his might, with all his own might, and with the fiend's. Come, Hester, come, support me up yonder scaffold." The crowd was in a tumult. The men of rank and dignity, who stood more immediately around the clergyman, were so taken by surprise and so perplexed as to the purport of what they saw, unable to receive the explanation which most readily presented itself, or to imagine any other, that they remained silent and inactive spectators of the judgment which Providence seemed about to work. They beheld the minister, leaning on Hester's shoulder and supported by her arm around him, approach the scaffold and ascend its steps, while still the little hand of the sin-born child was clasped in his. Old Roger Chillingworth followed, as one intimately connected with the drama of guilt and sorrow in which they had all been actors, and well entitled, therefore, to be present at its closing scene. "Hast thou sought the whole world over?" said he, looking darkly at the clergyman. There was no one place so secret, no high place nor lowly place, where thou could have escaped me, save on this very scaffold." "Thanks be to him who hath led me hither," answered the minister. Yet he trembled, and turned to Hester, with an expression of doubt and anxiety in his eyes, not the less evidently betrayed that there was a feeble smile upon his lips. "Is it not better," murmured he, "that what we dreamt of is not this better," murmured he, "than what we dreamt of in the forest?" I know not, she hurriedly replied. "Better? Yea, so we may both die, and little Pearl die with us." "For thee and Pearl, be it as God shall order," said the minister, "and God is merciful. Let me now do the will which he hath made plain before my sight. For, Hester, I am a dying man, so let me make haste to take my shame upon me." Partly supported by Hester Prynne, and holding one hand of little Pearl's, the Reverend Mr. Dimmesdale turned to the dignified and venerable rulers, to the holy ministers who were his brethren, to the people whose great heart was thoroughly appalled, yet overflowing with tearful sympathy, as knowing that some deep life matter, which, if full of sin, was full of anguish and repentance likewise, was now to be laid open to them. The sun, but little past its meridian, shone down upon the clergyman, and gave a distinctness to his figure as he stood out from all the earth to put his plea of guilt at the bar of eternal justice. "People of New England," cried he, with a voice that rose over them, high, solemn, and majestic, yet had always a tremor through it, and sometimes a shriek struggling up out of the fathomless depths of remorse and woe. "Ye that have loved me, ye that have deemed me holy, behold me here, one sinner of the world. At last, I stand upon the spot where, 7 years since, should have stood here with this woman, whose arm, more than little strength wherewith I have crept hitherward, sustains me at this dreadful moment, from grovelling down upon my face. Lo, the scarlet letter which Hester Prynne wears. Ye have all shuddered at it. Wherever her walk hath been, wherever so miserably burdened, she may have hoped to find repose. It hath cast a lurid gleam of awe and horrible repugnance around her. But there stood one in the midst of you, at whose brand of sin and infamy ye have not shuddered." It seemed at this point as if the minister must leave the remainder of his secret undisclosed, but he fought back the bodily weakness, and, still more, the faintness of heart that was striving for the mastery with him. He threw off all assistance, and stepped passionately forward a pace before the woman and the child. "It was on him," he continued with a kind of fierceness, so determined was he to speak out the whole. "God's eye beheld it. The angels were forever pointing at it. The devil knew it well, and fretted it continually with the touch of his burning finger. But he hid it cunningly from men, and walked among you with the mien of a spirit, mournful because so pure in a sinful world, and sad because he missed his heavenly kindred. Now, at the death hour, he stands up before you. He bids you look again at Hester's scarlet letter. He tells you that, with all its mysterious horror, it is but the shadow of what he bears on his own breast, and that even this, his own red stigma, is no more than the type of what has seared his inmost heart. Stand any here that question God's judgment on a sinner? Behold, a dreadful witness of it."